Okay, Commissioner Mercy, will you lead us in the, oh, I'm sorry, we need to do Pledge of Allegiance. Will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Certainly. Okay, join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Commissioners Kathleen Carlson,
Present.
Amanda Haas,
Present.
Andrew Mercy,
Present.
Timothy Wiley,
Present.
Vice Chairman Russell Bartlett,
Present.
Chairperson April Bartlett.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Public business from the floor. If an individual is unable to stay through the entire meeting due to extenuating circumstances, a total of 10 minutes is provided at this time during which input may be given regarding agenda items. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. Any person who would like to address the Architectural and Design Commission on any agendized item is requested to complete a speaker card for the recording secretary and identify the agenda item you would like to discuss. Each person will be given an opportunity to address the Architectural and Design Commission at the time such item is discussed by the Architectural and Design Commission. Speaker cards available at the entrance of the council chambers. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. Okay, so let's see. Do we need to... and then there was light. I move to approve the meeting minutes from June 7th of 2007. All in favor?
Second.
We're voting by hand.
Motion passes unanimously.
Brian or Elma, are you going to be giving us the status reports on the Transit Village?
Yes, Elma will be doing most of it, but I'll give you a little bit of introduction. We began this planning effort, as you'll recall, a couple of months back. And this past Saturday, we were able to have our first community outreach meeting, and had pretty good attendance. We actually had some 50 people, I would say, and we have gathered from that quite a bit of important information, and would like to kind of go over with you where we're at on the project and what the next steps are going to be, and what you can expect as a commission as we go through the next couple of months.
Thank you. Okay, let's see if we can get this started. Okay. Just as a refresher, where the focused area is at Sierra Highway to Division, Lancaster Boulevard down to Avenue J. So the area that you see in green is the area that most of the concentration is being looked at right now and is part of the plan. We are looking at the corridor of Sierra Highway, and we are looking a little bit all the way up to Lancaster Boulevard, but this is just a reminder. This is what we've done so far. May 1st, we had our kickoff meeting. We had Sargenttown Planning was part of the team. SCAG was there. ABTA was present, and so was the city staff. For the most part, we were just looking at what the scope of work is and to get the logistics of how to proceed with the vision plan. As Brian was saying, before that, we had stakeholder interviews. Those were held on June 6th and June 20th. We had various stakeholders. We had ABTA, we had Ms. Bartlett, we had the Downtown Boulevard Association, we had faith-based leaders that were from that particular area. There was a phone conversation with Metrolink. Some of the business owners were present, and then city staff was also in there separate, not with these folks, and that was the economic development, some folks from housing, and people from public safety. And basically that was just to discuss what they feel about the area, to get some history on the area, to talk about some of the issues and some of the opportunities that were there. As Brian was saying, on the 28th, we had a public workshop. It was held at the Antelope Valley Christian Center, which is off of Lancaster Boulevard. There were about between 50 and 60 people there, between the business owners, some folks from the MetroLink, folks that were actually writers. So there was quite a variety of people that were there. It was facilitated by Sergeant Town Planning, and it was nice that we had Ken Mann, council member there, that spoke, and then the person there on the right, that's David Sargent. He was the one that did the facilitating. There was a good crowd. David Sargent first presented what we were looking for in this vision plan, and then it was opened up for discussion for the folks that were there. Some of the things that were talked about was the 5 to 10 minute walk from the MetroLink station to the boulevard areas. Discussion was focused around the barriers of having the railroad cutting off access from the east to the west, and the only real access is there, Sierra Highway and Avenue J. Talked about lack of infrastructure for pedestrians and cyclists, and it talked about some of the opportunity sites, possible adjacent parking lots on Sierra Highway, using the retention basin as a park of sorts, and how to maybe utilize some of the vacant land that was there. And David Sargent went through a presentation of some of the things that were possible for this area, one being the streetscape improvements. The first picture there is the shorter crosswalks, having a center median, and having parking on the street. This allows more pedestrian-friendly environment like we have on the boulevard. Also, the one you see on the bottom is having the street trees in the parkways, and that is actually a picture in front of the church there on Lancaster Boulevard. Brian, you want to talk about these?
Yes. David went through and really discussed some of the options for some of the transit-oriented development that could occur, and examples of what have been done in other communities. You can go on with that. Some of the mixed-use types approaches. This might be particularly important in the long term as we look at the transition along the Yucca corridor and possibly along parts of Sierra Highway also. Certainly housing, especially when you talk about transit-oriented development, can be an important part of what occurs there. And it's important, and we had it reiterated again during the workshop. There are a number of very viable businesses within this area, and of course for some of them, they don't have any plans to relocate or change what they're looking at doing, and they of course have interest in how they fit within the overall plan. And from the city standpoint, although it may not always look like it from the outside, that's actually a place where there are a number of very long-time successful and viable businesses who not only have a long-term stake in the community, but employ significant numbers of people in many cases, and that's certainly something in the current environment that's important. One of the discussion points that came up is what's going to happen in the long term if the high-speed rail line comes through, and what is the long-term future for design of a MetroLink station versus trying to create also this transit multimodal transfer facility that AVTA is interested in. And there were some examples given of ways to bridge the railroad tracks in case there was an opportunity to look at facilities on the other side of the tracks from where they currently are, or ways that you can try to integrate the station a little more fully with what's going on. And one of the points of discussion, kind of going back to the streets, were what's the long-term plan for the design of Sierra Highway? Right now it's pretty much designed through the downtown area to let you drive at about 55 miles an hour unless you happen to hit the red light, and kind of beginning to feel out the idea, maybe with some redesign, you have a street that's more comfortable at a 30 to 35 mile an hour driving speed, and that creates a different feel, it creates a different walking environment, and ultimately may create a different market for some additional types of uses that may want to locate along it. So that was also part of the discussion and the thought process. You want to go over the next steps on it? Okay.
The next steps we have is during the workshop, the business owners were extremely excited and interested and engaged in what we were doing, and they had requested to have something similar to an ad hoc community committee. just like gone, I lost it. Sorry. So we're going to be talking with them. We're going to get together with them and get their input on. We're hoping to do that in mid-August, although right now it's going to be the 1st of September, when we had a quick conversation with David Sargent earlier today. So the mid-August is actually the 1st of September. The next step is the next public workshop will be September 18th. It's going to be a Tuesday evening. It will be held here at the City Hall in the EOC. And then from that, Brian, if you want to talk about the October 8th meeting.
Yes, on October 8th, we are looking to try to hold a joint meeting. That happens to be the normal night of the, it's no longer agenda review, it's a special meeting that the regular Planning Commission holds before its agenda. But we were looking at trying to have a joint meeting between the ADC and the Planning Commission, which would be devoted to going over the vision plan effort and what has come out of everything for the Southeast Transit Village area. And this would be a really good opportunity for you as commission members and the Planning Commission to kind of weigh in and give your input and really get a chance to look at what's come out of the work effort. So in kind of thinking ahead, that's a Monday night, and the normal meeting time for the regular Planning Commission is 5:30 for those meetings, but I'm going to talk with them as they come up on their next cycle to see whether or not that works for them also. But we're looking at trying to really have a good opportunity for some discussion and perhaps use the EOC or some similar format so we can really get around and you guys have the chance to weigh in on what's going on with this.
Thank you. So you're going to let us know then after their meeting?
Yeah, at this point I would go ahead and tentatively plan that. I mean, obviously there's no adjourning that you have to do to that meeting at this point, but consider that as a likely time, and then if there's something that changes in regards to that, we'll let you know. But anyway, that seems to be the time that works best given the schedule that we're on. A couple of other things I just wanted to say. First of all, we had a couple of commissioners who were present. Drew was there on Saturday, and Amanda also, so we appreciate your attendance, and hopefully you got a chance to kind of sense the feedback and the back and forth of some of that. We were also really fortunate that we had Marco Anderson, who is from the Southern California Association of Governments, is actually the person who coordinates the Compass Blueprint project program that this was funded under. And he was really impressed with the amount of people that came on a Saturday. He does these things at cities all over Southern California. He said this was a really well done event, and then he said he was going to walk downtown and have lunch, so I thought that was really good. But you know, it certainly doesn't hurt to get some good publicity and some good you know, outreach to our regional planning agencies, because those messages get carried into other places, hopefully to people with money who can help fund things that we're looking to do.
So we move on to public business from the floor.
I have a couple. Can I ask you guys a couple questions? Can I?
Yeah.
Is now the time? So just we all know that this is a plan that's being developed. So when we talk about the existing retention basin and the plan to potentially have a park there, how specific will this plan be in terms of the type of park?
It will not necessarily be specific in terms of the type of park.
Okay.
And understand that the product that will come out of this is a vision plan, meaning that it will say, here are 2 to 3 possible scenarios for the long-term development in the Southeast Transit Village area. One of the things that I think is really going to drive this a little bit more than I had thought it was, as I mentioned, is this high-speed rail concern. We had probably for the first time people who are kind of wanting to know what that means for our city. The city has supported that effort, but it's sort of supported it in the abstract. Now we're starting to get to the point of saying, well, this is what the physical improvement of that will be. And it's going to be at least a year before the High-Speed Rail Authority actually gets to the point of issuing a potential set of plans and an environmental document for what's going to happen there. In the meantime, you know, we've got to try to think about the planning and how that can be accommodated with what's going to occur. And in many ways, like I said, this is looking at different scenarios that can occur. It's not something that's going to be accomplished overnight. And I wish I could remember what David Sargent said was great. He says, if you make a plan, it doesn't necessarily mean it will happen, but if you don't make a plan, it will certainly not happen. So that's kind of the way that we're looking at this.
That's my question.
Okay. One other thing I will add, and it does tie into this, although we're not going to begin this particular effort until sometime after January. The city was surprisingly fortunate to be awarded another planning grant from Metro, which is the county metropolitan planning agency, and that's specifically to plan for areas around transit stations. And our goal is to develop some kind of overlay zone approach to the remaining quadrants that are around the Metrolink station, essentially what we would refer to as the South Downtown area, the neighborhood to the southwest of the station, and to the remaining part of the Yucca neighborhood, which is to the northeast of the station. So that's also going to involve engagement into the community, similar type of effort to what you've seen here, but obviously it involves different areas because you've got neighborhoods that exist. It's not as much vacant land. It's more, how do you ensure that those areas don't have any further deterioration, or that you get a set of standards in place that, as far as infill development occurs, that it occurs in some way that's consistent with what is the character of the area that you're trying to maintain. From my standpoint, it's great, although it's messed up our schedule a little bit because we didn't expect to get the grant. We applied for it, and then we were stunned to find out we were the highest score. So there will be this follow-on effort that really dovetails nicely with what we're doing on the Southeast Transit Village plan right now. And once that second effort is done, then we're going to have at least some kind of planning thought that's gone on to the area that's all around the Metrolink station within the normal walking distance. So it's just a matter of
Congratulations on that
figuring out
grant.
how to do it.
Well done.
I guess one other thing that I've really been encouraged by, too, we got some real great media coverage on the Southeast Transit, and we've gotten four, five?
4 on the outside and 0 on the inside.
Yeah, 5 additional calls from people saying they're really interested in what we're doing and they'd like to be a part of that. And they are either people that are in the Southeast Transit area, or they're right on the border and they're within the area that we would look to start doing the more extensive planning on in January. So we're getting some real good community engagement, and we obviously want to cultivate that and make sure that those people are involved as we go forward on some of this other work. So.
Right. Does anyone else have any questions? No? Okay. Move on to public business from the floor then. Public business from the floor, non-agendized items. This portion of the agenda allows an individual the opportunity to address the commission on any subject regarding city business. Under state legislation, no action can be taken on non-agenda items. Members of the public should be aware of this when addressing the commission regarding items not specifically referenced on the agenda. Please complete a speaker card for the recording secretary. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. No speakers? Are you sure? Okay, so this meeting is adjourned to Thursday, September 6th, 2012 at 5 p.m. in Lancaster City Hall Council Chambers.